Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing a quick sort of wrap up of the books I read in both January and February. Since the beginning of this year, I've read a total of 5 books, and I'm very proud of those 5 books. With all the textbook chapters I've had to read and all the articles I've had to read for school, I am amazed I got 1 book in, let alone 5, so I am very proud of those 5 books. I'm probably not going to go into a bunch of detail on these books. I've never done a wrap up video before, so I'm just going to see how this goes. The first book I picked up this year was Serafina by Rachel Hartman, and I really wanted to like this book. I really wanted to enjoy it. There's a dragon on the cover. Of course I really wanted to enjoy it. And there were parts of it I did enjoy. I didn't hate the book. It just wasn't something that jumped out and grabbed me as I was reading it. In this world we have dragons and we have humans, and for the longest time these two groups were at war with each other until one day the king of the dragons, I forgot his title, he has a title, and the queen of the humans got together and they formed this peace treaty. Even after they made this peace treaty, the humans did not really trust or like the dragons at all, and most of the dragons did not like or trust the humans at all either. It was just pretty much a stop to the war. A few weeks before they celebrate the anniversary for this peace treaty, one of the royal family members is murdered, and it is suspected that a dragon is to blame for the murder. So pretty much we follow this girl Serafina as she works with Prince Kiggs, who is the captain of the Queen's Guard, as they try to track down and solve who pretty much murdered this member of the royal family, all while trying to keep Serafina's biggest secret intact, that she is half dragon and half human. And in this story, the half-breeds, the half-dragon, half-humans, are seen as abominations and are actually hated more by each group than they hate each other. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because I really didn't hate it. It's got elements that I really enjoy. It's got a murder mystery sort of style, and it's got fantasy. It's got dragons. Even though I do not like the dragons in this story, except for the main characters that we see that are dragons, all the other dragons are emotionless and dull, and I know that's their character, but it seems like all of the other dragons in the story can be lumped up into one person. They're very interchangeable, and I really didn't like that. I wish they had more character to them, they seemed very two-dimensional to me and very forgettable, and I didn't like that. The next book I got to this year was The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and I actually listened to this one on as an audiobook, and I am a sucker for an audiobook that is narrated by the author. Neil Gaiman actually narrated this book, and it was fantastic. I wanted to do a full video review on this book after I read it, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought about the things I wanted to say and things like that. This book is very hard to describe, and there are probably a ton of videos out there that can explain this a lot better than I can, but it's really hard to express and explain my thoughts on this book. This story is an adult book, but is told through a child's point of view, which I thought was interesting and unique. I haven't seen anything like that before. Our main character is pretty much a middle-aged man, and he's having a flashback to his childhood memories, and I thought that was really interesting. There are a lot of adult situations in this book. There's adultery in here, suicide, and different things like that, violence, monsters, different things like that definitely make this an adult book, and I thought it was just really interesting to see those things through a child's eyes in this book. It was really fascinating to see. One thing that I thought was really weird about this book, and I didn't think about it until I was finished with the book, is that we never get to find out what this boy's name is. It's never mentioned. He's just this boy or this middle-aged man in this book, and I thought that was really interesting as well. He ends up befriending this little girl that lives at the end of their road, the end of his lane, and her name is Liddy, and her scenes, the ones with him interacting with her and her mother and her grandmother at their house, were my favorite parts of this book. They are so different as characters, and I actually really enjoyed those scenes. The unusual and the weird aspects of their world seem completely normal. They talk like it's nothing in their house. It is just a bizarre book to get through. I am extremely glad that I got to this book and just randomly decided to pick it up. I am excited to get to more Neil Gaiman books in the future. This is my first exposure to him. I am excited to get to more. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, but I may go back and change that to a 5 out of 5 stars because it really did stick with me. It made me think for a long time after this book, and I may have to give it a 5 out of 5 stars for the same reason that I gave another book on my list 5 out of 5 stars, because it stuck with my mind. It made an impact on me, and I think that at least deserves a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It made me think for a long time. I enjoyed this book so much. The writing was beautiful, and the fact that it was narrated by the author it just added that much more to this book, and I just really enjoyed the experience of this book. The next book I picked up was Illuminated by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I am kind of upset with myself that I didn't pick this book up sooner. I thought all the hype was gonna drown this book out and make it not as good for me, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. One of the biggest worries and problems I thought I was going to have with this book was the fact that the characters would be two-dimensional. They would not be very developed because the story is told through documents and certain conversations and just different things like that, different diagrams and things like that. So I thought it would be really, really difficult for the characters to be developed at all, but I was completely wrong. You get to see so much from the characters in this book. You get to see a bunch of their personality through the language and the things they discuss through their messaging and their interactions with the other characters. You get pretty much a full backstory on most of these characters, and I honestly feel like I got to know these characters more in this book than I have in a bunch of other books that I've read before. It was actually well done. I enjoyed it completely. I also enjoyed how the authors put little bitty, I guess you can call them Easter eggs into this book. I know Laini Taylor's name is in there on a folder somewhere, and Marie Lu is on a movie poster in there somewhere, along with one of the main characters from Big Trouble Little China and a famous photographer and a few people like that. There's just little Easter eggs in there everywhere, and I really enjoyed seeing that in this book, finding those little details. This is definitely a sci-fi book, and I really enjoyed that, and it's also the first book in a series they're coming out with. I believe they just released photos for the cover of the next book, which is blue, and I love it because blue is my favorite color. It looks fantastic. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I flew through it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't wait to see where they take this series. I'm really looking forward to it. Next, I read Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. And this is a light fantasy read. We follow our lead characters, Safi and Iz. They have longer names, but I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I'm probably already getting the shorter names very wrong. I'm horrible with pronunciations. But Safi is our Truth Witch and Iz is our Thread Witch. The Truth Witch, she can tell when people are pretty much lying to her, and the Thread Witch can see the binding threads that bind other people together, but she can't see her own. Without giving a whole lot away, this is a adventure story pretty much. It follows our two main characters for the most part, trying to escape this city and trying to make it to a destination while being chased. That's pretty much what this book comes down to. It is fast paced. I enjoyed getting through this book. It was fun and it was a light fantasy read, and I really did like this book. The last book I picked up and read so far this year was The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. This story takes place in Germany during World War II, September 1st, 1939 to September 2nd, 1945, and we follow this young girl and her adoptive family, Hans and Rosa Huberman, and their interactions with other characters throughout this book as well, through the perspective of death. This is by no means a happy book at all. There are lighthearted moments, but most of this book is dealing with sad events. It is a wartime during a very horrible time, but there are lighthearted moments, especially with the relationships with Liesel and her family and a few of their friends. I actually finished this book about a week ago and I wasn't quite sure what to think about it, but it's been stuck on my mind pretty much this entire time. While I was reading it and immediately when I was done with it, I was kind of on the fence of whether to give this a 4 or 4.5 stars, but since it's been stuck with me for an entire week, it's made me think about it. I think that deserves a 5-star rating from me. It's the same as The Ocean at the End of the Lane for me. This stuck with me, made an impact, so I think for that it deserves a 5-star rating from me. I really enjoyed this book. It was not the fastest paced book. It's pretty slow, but it's kind of meant to be. This was one of 2 random books that I picked up from the library for my TBR this month, and I am really glad I picked this one up. I think this story is going to stick with me for a long time. It's going to be on my mind for a long time. I will actually have a book discussion, my first book discussion over this book at some point next week. I talked for a while on this book, so it's going to take me a while to get through and edit that video, but I should have my first book discussion up for The Book Thief sometime probably later next week. And that pretty much does it for my first wrap up. If you'd like to follow me, I'll put the links to my social media in the description down below. As always, you guys are amazing. Thank you for watching. Thank you. And I will see you soon with another video. Bye.